If you're planning to bring your UK car seat with you to Australia, keep watching to find out why, by doing so, you could be breaking the law. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we are talking about car seats, and one of the things I was not prepared for when packing up our car seat to come over to Australia was that it was going to be illegal. Now, unless your car seat has an Australian standard label on the side of it, which I will put a little copy here, you'll see it on our own car seat. If it doesn't have that, then unfortunately your car seat is therefore illegal. Now, of course, I searched many forums and I've done lots of research online, a lot of Facebook groups. There are a good few Facebook groups that I will tag in this video as well for you. However, I very quickly learnt through them that majority, if not all, car seats from the UK are actually illegal here in Australia. Now, my understanding is it's all to do with this top tether strap. Now, obviously this is an essential installation strap and it keeps the top half of the front facing car seat secured to the little hook in the back of your boot, and obviously that keeps the car seat secured in the event of a crash. Now, the next thing to note is that your 360 seats are very much non-existent here, which I'm sure, like me, you will be very disappointed with. It's the one thing that I probably miss the most, especially when getting my little boy in and out of the car, is that I can't spin the seat round to just easily take him out. And again, this is all to do with that top tether strap. Obviously, a spin seat would not allow that, and therefore it doesn't comply with the Australian standards. Now, if you are watching this from the UK, that doesn't mean that a 360 spin seat is not safe. It very much is. It just means that when the Australian standards were doing their checks, that was something they didn't take into consideration with their checks. Therefore, it has not been checked and it's not part of the Australian standards. And therefore, if you do have that seat over here, they don't comply with those standards, making them illegal. Now, when it comes to front or rear facing, the laws here are very much different to those in the UK, and it's something that I do want to share here on this video, because unless you are really looking into it, it's maybe something that you would come over just assuming that the laws here are the same, and like I've said before, they are very much different. So let's look at them now. So in Australia, the law states that if your baby is under 6 months of age, they must be in a rear facing car seat. Then we will look at the UK. The UK states that anyone under 15 months must be in a rear facing car seat. So obviously in the UK, we are rear facing for a lot longer, which in my opinion is definitely better. In Australia, if you are between 6 months and under 4 years, then you must be rear or forward facing in a restraint with a built-in harness. And then if we look at the UK, anywhere between 15 months and 3 years, they must be in a car seat. Now, that can be rear facing or forward facing. However, coming from the UK, it is very much pushed that you have a rear facing child as long as possible. And myself, I do know a lot of people who still have their children rear facing up to the age of 4, and that is a complete personal preference. But I would state that yes, in the UK, I feel like we're a lot more strict on the rear facing conditions. So then in Australia we get to 4 years, so anywhere between 4 years and under 7 years of age, it's a legal requirement that the child must be forward facing or in a booster seat, obviously with a restraint, either by a fastened seatbelt or a safety harness. And then finally, the UK, from 3 years old to 12 years old, you can be front or rear facing, so you do have the choice as long as you're in a child seat with a safety harness. Now, obviously comparing both of these, the main thing is that you can see Australian car seat laws are up to 7 years old, whereas the UK, we have them up to 12 years old. So I found that to be very informative and obviously very surprising as well. Both countries obviously have very different laws against rear facing, forward facing, and the ages of children when they have to be legally in a car seat. Now, obviously these are very much on the government websites and they are by law. However, there are also height restrictions, and obviously children grow at different ages, don't they? So it's always best to check this yourself and make sure that your child is obviously in the right car seat and the right one for their height and weight. Now, I know this goes without saying, but obviously using the wrong car seat does mean that you're putting your child's life at risk whilst also breaking the law. Now, while some of these rules may come at quite a concern, you are in a different country and you do have to follow their law. There are obviously fines if you are using the wrong car seat, and those can vary anywhere between several hundred up to over $1,000, and then obviously you have demerit points on them as well. Now that obviously does depend on the offence, but it's something to definitely bear in mind when you're coming over to Australia. And to be honest, these fines are obviously at best. I don't even want to discuss what at worst would be, hence why I'm doing this video. Now, something else I definitely noticed when I arrived in Australia is that you can buy car seats from a lot of various places here that, again, back home I didn't really notice as much. So for example, I felt like it was all your branded either pram centres or I'm going to say mother care, and I know that's no longer existing in the UK, which does make me very sad, but it was all, yeah, you're very much baby shops that sold car seats, and they were obviously all EU approved, and I suppose it just was more of a confidence thing that you were buying from those shops, so you knew that the car seats were safe and they were recommended for your child. Now in Australia, however, I have noticed that places like Kmart do sell car seats, and they are obviously very budget friendly. Does that mean they're safe? I probably have my own kind of opinions on that. However, as long as they have the Australian standard label on them, then you know that they have passed all the safety checks and they are safe to use in your car. So what car seats did I choose? So again, this is my own personal preference. However, I chose to go for brands that I know from the UK as well. And the two brands that we have are Maxi Cosi and Britax. Now, I do understand that car seats can come at quite a cost, and one of the things for me was that our 360 spin seat that I had and invested quite a lot of money in, we still haven't done anything with that, to be honest. However, I would advise to either sell it, or you can obviously keep it if you are planning on just coming over here for a short time and potentially going home, or of course you are planning future children and you may decide to go home and keep it for that. There are obviously various different options you can do with your car seat. We of course then had to come over here and buy 2 new car seats, so you can of course go on Marketplace as well. However, I caught up with Britax and I wanted to just clarify some of the things that you should really look for when you're considering purchasing a second-hand car seat. This is what they had to say. While it isn't possible to guarantee that a used restraint is fully safe, the following checklist should be followed. Make sure the device is approved to Australian Standard 1754. If the child restraint does not have a hook connection on the top tether strap, then it is over 10 years old and should not be used. Check for signs of wear, for example cracks, faded or frayed straps, or a buckle that doesn't work. Check the history of the restraint if you can. Don't use one which has been involved in a crash, is likely to have been stressed and may not provide adequate protection. As a general rule, only consider a restraint owned by someone you know. Second-hand child restraints may not contain all the safety features of the latest Australian standard. And finally, we do not recommend the use of second-hand child restraints as the full history of the restraint may not be known. Now also, whilst I was chatting to Britax, one of the things they also advised me of, which I thought was very interesting, is that although you may have a Britax seat in the UK, don't just assume that that means that it will then be fine to buy in Australia. Now again, by that, what I mean is if you can even buy that exact same seat in Australia, then you may think that that's okay to then bring that over. However, going back to those Australian standards, the checks are different here, and although that seat will be sold here, it will comply with those Australian standards as opposed to the UK one, which is of course the EU standards. And then finally, I think it's good to cover off if you are bringing your car seat with you for whichever reason, whether that is that it actually is one of the seats that do comply with the Australian standards, or you prefer to bring your car seat for even on the flight, always check with the airline with regards to their policy and obviously transporting the seat. Most airlines will allow seats to be checked in or of course carried on board, but as always it's wise to confirm that in advance. So let me know what you thought of this video, and if this also came as a surprise to you. Are you planning on moving over here, and of course were you planning on bringing your car seat? Let me know below. I'm super keen to understand if these laws and regulations came as a surprise to you as much as they did to me. Now as always, I hope that you have enjoyed this video. Let me know if there's anything else you would like me to cover off, again if you're planning on coming over, and I'll be super happy to help with that. And yeah, I will see you all in my next video.